But it's about language though as well, because I think, you know, the people that might be the best communicators might not speak in a language that everybody finds palatable, if you like. But being okay with that, again, that idea of power. There is power in language, and there is power in the language that people use. I'm Deborah, I'm a community worker from Glasgow. We're talking today about different ways to engage with your community, I suppose. Street work or outreach work, something that's really important to me as a method of engagement. I was probably doing some of that work before I realised what it was. Speaking to people in my own community, my own street, trying to get people into public meetings when I was about 18. And then for 11 years I worked in a few different projects that use street work or outreach work as a kind of main engagement tool. And I just think it's really important to vary what you do as a community worker and to speak to people in their own territory rather than in buildings. When you speak to somebody in a building, whether that's a young person or an adult as well, they come in with an expectation of how they might have to behave, what rules exist here, unspoken often, unconscious levels of communication that might exist. And that can just, I think it can kind of dampen people's ability to input in discussions at times. It can kind of maybe get in the way. But when you speak to people outside, something changes. You usually do that in twos, I think, just to be mindful of engaging with a colleague and keeping yourself safe. But you need to negotiate entry in a different way. You're in their space. You need to be mindful of their language, whether or not they want you to be there speaking to them in the first place.
Could you give me an example of what you're talking about?
Well, when I did youth work, we would have young people that would always come into the project, and it'd be the same faces, but there was a whole load of young folk out there that wouldn't cross the threshold. They wouldn't cross the threshold. So we would go and meet them in the street, and sometimes we would get a wee invite up their close if we were lucky. It was their territory, they had the power. You know, we were invited in rather than them being invited in. Mm-hmm. And we would develop the relationship on that basis until such times as they wanted to cross the door. We had one young woman, I remember, her pals started coming in a lot sooner than she did, and she would kind of stand outside, sometimes in the pissing rain, stand outside the youth project looking in. And I came into my drop-in one night and there she was in. And it took her a lot longer. She was sussing us out, making sense of what that space would be and how she could contribute, and building trust with us on the street in her space that we would value her input. And she was one of the most valuable members of that project once she stepped over the door. But that took about 9 months of working with her outside. For me, I think it's about shifting the balance of power. I think all community workers need to be mindful of power, whether you're a social worker or, you know, depending on what kind of service you're in, what your job title might actually be. If you're out there employed and working with people, you can easily assume a position of power. Even if you're aware of those difficulties, we need to be mindful of that. We're increasingly academic as a field of community development, and whilst I think that's okay, there are pitfalls and we can forget how people might view us within that. I think you're right, I think everybody has to consider that dynamic of power. Whoever you are and however you're choosing to speak to people in your area, you have to think about that. Who you want to speak to, who might you be missing? You know, and is it the same faces going round and round in discussions where there might be action in communities? Is it the same people that turn up to the meetings? Is it the same folk? And if that's the case, all of us there, in whatever role we take and coming together or speaking to people or trying to create action, we need to be mindful that how we engage with people, where we engage with people, can have a negative impact or a positive one. I think you need to develop a presence in a community, and that a presence that doesn't just exist in other agencies and other projects. That presence needs to exist on the ground as well. So, you know, word of mouth, finding out who families might be or families that are active. I know I've done that in the past where I've, you know, got to know a community activist and then his mum and his uncle and his family members, and if I've had something coming up, I know to go and see them because they'll know who to go and speak to that I don't. They'll be able to take my leaflets up closes that workers wouldn't go up, or to areas where people might be that we wouldn't have contact with. So it's really useful to get to know folk like that, and you need to be seen to be on a level if that's going to happen. You need to be seen to be cutting about that community, if you like. Well, I think it's just something I've learned over years of experience. I using street work as a method of engagement, that you realise it's a different process that you go through, and I suppose it's about thinking about where to put your energies first, and the conversations that happen in the street are very different. People can come to meetings and people can feel quite disheartened and quite disappointed by these meetings. You know, they'll turn up and it'll be panel discussion maybe, and it's people talking at you, and they're maybe united or there for the same reason. There might be something that they agree, but no action happens, and it's meeting after meeting, and people go away maybe no feeling like they've been able to contribute or that their voice has been heard.
What would the procedure be?
But you need to start, I think we were just saying that before, your first role as a community worker is to do nothing. You enter the community and you spend time there observing, finding out what's going on, mapping it if you like, whatever language you want to use. You know, you don't do anything at first. You find out who the key people might be. But my experience has taught me that the conversations that happen in the street, being outside, are really valuable because of that stuff I spoke about before, about power, about shifting that, about being able to speak to people that you maybe wouldn't get over the door of a building, you wouldn't get them into a meeting. And over time, connecting with people in that way, having those kind of conversations in the street, you realise there's stuff that unifies us, and it might take time to build somebody's confidence or capacity to say, right, actually now I want to come together, I want to speak to other people about this, I want to have a meeting, I want to get folk together and take some action. You think about here, this space, Glasgow Green, I remember Workers' Day being a big thing when I was wee. You were always here. But people did have their meetings on the street, people met in public spaces, and we're all inside now, aren't we, even in our private lives.
And then you'll see some young people cutting about the place.
Yeah.
Likely to get up to some mischief or whatever, given there's not a lot else for them.
Might not be safe for them to be at home.
Aye,
so
sitting in front of computers.
No.
Outside.
Being active. There's an energy in that in itself. I mean, that's why I still first get involved in this stuff. The antisocial behaviour consultation was happening in my area, and I felt young people were being vilified. I don't want them in the street, they don't want to be seen. Get them in out the road, because there is energy there, and young people have got a lot to contribute. Other cultures have that, you know, approach of being outside, and that's okay. And it's great to see that happening in George Square, where you'll see folk from perhaps the Middle East and different parts of the world sitting together, drinking tea, all being outside, chatting, young folk dancing. We need more of that, but not just in George Square, not just in the city centre, in communities where conversations can happen in a really organic way, and energy will flow between groups, and you might start to pass stuff on with each other. People get excited, but not to demonise that, not to say, you know, you shouldn't be there, you shouldn't be seen.
Yeah,
Engage with that. I think, yeah, people have become afraid of that presence of groups in the street, haven't they? They see that as something to fear. That's normal in other parts of the world, it's normal in other cultures to be outside, to commune outside. Might have better weather, mind you, but you know, we've become afraid of groups of people hanging about, particularly men. I think that's an issue. You see a group of men and you think, don't go and talk to them. And that's the difference with street work. I think using it as a tool is that you go and approach that group, go right up to them and say hello. You tend to have a positive experience. You tend to realise that they want to talk to you, and they actually appreciate that you're not afraid of them and that you've come up and said hello. Maybe they see a bravery in it, I don't know, but it sparks their interest, and they go, what's that about?
But value in time as well.
Aye.
You know, if you put time into people, you get it back.
Absolutely. You know, when we did that in youth projects I've been in, you would be at the same place every week in, week out. They would see you. Some weeks they would want to talk to you, other weeks they wouldn't. That was fine. But they built up trust that you were interested and that you were taking the time to be there and to come and speak to them, and not to be afraid of them, to be interested in them. There's great value in that, to let them know that they're valued.
So there's been some people talking about the idea of standing as an independent. Mm-hmm. Have you any advice for them in terms of communication, street work?
Yeah, get outside on the street. You know, spend a bit of time observing who's around, what's going on, who's always there, who might have something to offer you when you're connecting with other people in that community. to tell you what people actually want, what's going on. Be outside, have a presence, don't complicate it. Everybody can do this stuff. And there are allies around about you who can also do it. So make connections with them. And don't be afraid to speak to large groups of people or small groups or individuals. And change your mindset. Don't keep holding public meetings. And don't be afraid to change your mind, you know. Don't follow the same formula of hustings and public meetings and putting leaflets out and getting people into buildings. Go and create a bit of energy and buzz about the place, but letting yourself be seen and allowing others to be seen.